everyone, and thanks for joining today's live session. We're going to be talking a lot about proctoring and remote testing. So before we begin, let's provide just a little background. A proctored test is any exam where the test taker is monitored by a human being while they take their test to ensure that no cheating occurs. Many important college and professional certification exams are taken this way in live testing centers. Remote testing online is an option for some exams, but the current platforms are not adequately secure and are too easy to cheat for many crucial certifications and tests. At Proctor 360, our goal is to bring secure proctored testing directly to the consumer, allowing them to take any exam, anywhere, at any time. We want to allow students to take exams from the location of their choice, making it more convenient for them and saving on cost in the process. So let's talk a little bit about problems with the current models, okay? Currently, some exams can be administered online using a laptop and the integrated webcam to monitor the student, while others must be taken at a live testing center. And there are millions of exams that are administered every year across both models, but there are problems with each of these. Testing at live centers requires a test taker to travel to an available center, and these are not always nearby. There are limited slots available for each exam, and this can create real burdens on scheduling the time to take a test at a live center. The test taker must take the test in an unfamiliar and sometimes uncomfortable environment because it's at a live center where they've never been before. There are usually limited options for testing centers within a geographic area, which can also make it difficult to schedule a test or to find one that's close enough to the student's home. The cost of operating a physical location for live testing is also pretty high because you have all of the costs that go along with a physical location, and this equates to financial challenges for the centers as well as for the students. And finally, for many major tests and certification exams, a live center is the only option. Remote testing is just not available for many of those. Online testing is more convenient for the test taker, but the current model is threatened by some pretty harsh realities. Studies have actually found that as many as 33% of all students admit to cheating on their online exams. Because of the limited view that's offered by a standard computer webcam, only 2.1% of cheaters have actually been caught in the act, according to these studies. The standard webcams are prone to blind spots because they're narrow field of view and because of the fact that they look in only one direction at the test taker. Anything that's behind the camera or out of its field of view could be used to help a test taker cheat the exam. There are actually many websites dedicated to publishing ways to help students circumvent this type of testing model and provide tips on how to cheat the system. And it's a model that uses decade-old technology and simply just doesn't collect enough monitoring input for many crucial exams to be allowed to be taken this way. That's why some of the most important tests for professional advancement and things like that can only be given at a live testing center currently. But those costs are high, and it creates real challenges for e-learners and online students as well. The good news for e-learning is that Proctor 360 has developed a solution. 360-degree cameras have been on the market for a few years now, but they've never been adapted to use for remote testing. We've designed a headset with an integrated 360-degree webcam that will give remote proctors a complete view of the entire testing environment, no matter where an exam is taken. Our multi-view platform collects a lot of input from several angles. We get a 360-degree view from the headset, a front view from the computer's webcam, a screen capture from the browser, and any sounds from the microphone that is incorporated into the headset. Our proctors monitor the exam and are trained to recognize cheating behavior. With our system, all information is recorded and can be accessed later for auditing as well. Proctors are able to monitor up to 6 tests at a time with this platform, and it allows us to maintain a high number of users and be scalable. Now, any exam can be taken remotely and securely. This is an innovative solution to a very concrete problem in remote testing, and we currently have a provisional patent filing for the use of 360-degree cameras in remote testing. So as the industry goes this direction, they're going to have to go through Proctor 360. Our founders represent a wealth of experience in the remote testing market. Ganga Bathula, our CEO, has more than 15 years of experience operating live testing centers and knows this industry very well. Don Kastner, our COO, was the former founder of Proctor U, which is a current major player in the remote testing market in the United States. And Kranthi Bethula, our CTO, has a wealth of experience in product engineering and has been instrumental in designing the 360-degree testing cam that is an integral part of our testing platform. And the entire Proctor 360 team is dedicated to making online testing more fair, more secure, and more accessible to e-learning students everywhere. So let's talk for a minute about our current progress. Proctor 360 has already developed working prototypes of this product, and our current offering on StartEngine has already met its minimum goal to allow us to start manufacturing these headsets and get to market. Any additional investments up to our maximum goal will serve to help us produce more headsets more quickly and achieve faster growth. Take a look at our online public offering at startengine.com/Proctor360. Consider making an investment now. You're looking at a startup company that is ready to achieve revenue in the near term and still see the kind of success that comes in many multiples by investing in a company at a startup stage. You're attending this live session, so we know you recognize the value of the product in this multi-billion-dollar remote testing market. So now we're going to open up. It looks like audio cut out there for just a second. We're gonna open up the live chat to allow anyone who'd like to ask some questions. We've got our founders here, Ganga Bethula and Kranthi Bethula, the CEO and CTO. They're available for any questions, as well as myself, that you may have about the product or our market or our current investment offering as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think this is a good platform to kind of discuss the topic fairness and reliability in online testing. I know we've gone a little bit back and forth about this in the past, but I guess we can be a little bit more focused now on what exactly the current industry standards are and why they need to be improved going forward. I think a big thing that we need to talk about is, and you mentioned this previously, but the FBI Varsity Blues, right?
Yeah, the big scandal.
Yeah, it really was. So for anyone who hasn't heard, there was a scandal that basically found out that all these this major cheating was occurring with the SATs and ACTs, basically allowing the students to either have extra time or in some cases have people take their exams for them, which is ridiculous. And they were able to do this by paying off proctors, requesting extra time in a private room, claiming anxiety or something like this. So, right. When we talked about it, I think the big problem that we noticed was there was a lack of verification. There was no way to say in like 3 months, so and so took this test and it was actually them. So that's like a key thing that kind of points out to me. And I mean, good on the FBI for figuring it out and bringing the case to a close even without that information. But with that information, something like this would be able to drastically change the way current testing is done. So I always think that having a verification system, and especially something like Proctor 360, it has a full view of the entire room. So if a student had anxiety like they were claiming, they would be able to take their test in their private room or even at home, really, and then be verified that there was a full 360-degree view of their entire testing space, making sure there was no cheating material, anything like that, while still maintaining that high degree of security needed for them to pass that test.
Yeah, it really demonstrates that even live testing centers now are not sacred ground. The fact that the guy that was at the center of that ring, and it was a nationwide deal where wealthy people from all over the country were paying this guy tens of thousands of dollars to get their kids better SAT and ACT scores. He was, paying off these proctoring centers so that they could go take a live test, like you said, where they would get a psychologist to say that they had learning disabilities or something, and so they got to take the test one-on-one. in in a couple of these live testing centers that he had in his pocket, and and they were able to cheat that way. I mean, in pretty substantial ways, and it's more than just another story about wealthy people getting one over on the less fortunate people that don't have the money to bribe their way into college. It's the question of fairness goes to the question of access to education. For every spot that one of those kids took at the colleges they applied for, is a spot that another student whose test results were legitimate did not get. It's pretty crazy. And live testing centers are are thought of as the most secure way to handle certain types of really crucial exams like college entrance exams. But now we're finding out with scams like this that even they're not completely sacred. And like you said, when they do a one-on-one test, there's no video to go back and review or any way to audit that. So that I think the scam that just broke, this Operation Varsity Blues, I think they said it was going on for, what was it, like 11 years or something?
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't even read that. That's crazy. I thought
yeah, it was going on for a long time.
I thought this was a few years ago. No, that's incredible. That's ridiculous. Kind of going off of that, what you said about testing centers, we actually, I think Ganga mentioned it to me a while back, but he actually saw a newspaper in India publish something that said that there was a cheating scandal there too in a testing center. So one of the testing companies had to completely shut down a division because there was a cheating scandal and there was like a blatant Proctor reluctance or a Proctor ignorance to cheating.
Oh, really? Like overt, like they were purposely turning a blind eye to it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, it's becoming more and more of a problem, and I think, obviously, this most recent scandal was related to college entrance exams, but certification testing for professionals is so crucial when it comes to career advancement in a lot of different professions that you have to imagine that it's going to bleed into those areas of the market also eventually.
Yeah. I mean, it always starts with a crack, right? And then it just continues to get worse.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think that's all the evidence one needs to see that there has to be a new solution. There has to be a way to not only verify a test while it's being taken, but then have the security of being able to audit that experience later on. And Proctor 360 is doing that.
Yeah, that's the advantage of having a multi-camera system, and one of those cameras being a 360 camera, because you get the full view of the room, and then you also get the front view of the user. So from multiple angles, we're able to verify where a person's looking at, and not only where they're looking at, even if it's off screen, but we can see what they're looking at off screen. So, we can tell if they're resting their eyes or they're looking at cheating material. Something
in their lap or just next to the laptop or whatever, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good point. We've got a question on the live chat there from C. Springer. It says, so who purchases the Proctor 360 service? Is it credentialing organizations or remote Proctor organizations? He's trying to understand the market. Is that something you want to talk about, Kranti, or maybe Ganga?
Sure. I can talk about. Okay, go ahead, Ganga.
Yeah, this Proctor 360 is a service. That means we partner with the testing companies. So that means, like, for example, if you have to take exam from Cisco or Microsoft or PMI, we are going to work with them, and then we are going to deliver this as a service using our Proctor 360 system. The way it works is, when you place an order, the headset is going to come to your home, and we track that you got that headset, and then when you are ready for taking the exam, our proctors are going to come online as a live proctors. They start the exam. They make sure that everything is captured, including the biometrics such as picture or fingerprinting or whatever is necessary based on the examination requirements. And once the exam is completed, the proctor is going to verify everything went smooth, and then he's going to approve that the proctoring has been done. Then you get your results from your home or office, as simple as that, and you ship the system back to us, and we will refurbish it, make sure that the system is sterile, and then we'll ship it back to the next customer.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm glad he asked that, because it's helpful in understanding the market to understand that it's basically a business to business operation, because we are dealing with the organizations or the learning institutions that have exams to be administered, but then the end user is actually a student.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of the times, the people we're going to be working with are the people that make the tests. So for a long time, they were very limited on what exactly they could, or where exactly people could go take their exam, because currently there's a single camera system available where it just uses the front of the webcam, and for lower security exams that's fine, but for these companies, they spend a lot of money, a lot of time developing these test questions. So if even a few of these test questions go out, and we've seen it before where the people will literally screenshot and then post them online, that they lose a lot of the money they spent. And this isn't like a few $100. These are like tens of thousands of dollars that they put into making these exams. So that's why they were always limited to using testing centers, because they have the highest degree of security available on the market. But introducing such a comprehensive system like Proctor 360 kind of lets that testing center users be able to go to the home space, providing convenience and lowering cost in the process.
And not only that, because yes, it's the student who is the end user of the product, but the deals you're making are for hundreds and thousands of exam sessions, not for it's not that you're trying to market to one individual user to use the Proctor 360 headset to take one test. And so you're talking about each time you have a successful demonstration of the platform and the product with one of these institutions, you're not just capturing one test session. You're capturing, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're talking about hundreds and thousands of test sessions.
Yeah, definitely. And then we've already begun talks with various different companies. They're very intrigued, very interested. Some of them have already been like, let's go, let's get this process started. I want to be ready once you guys are in full production. Even the people that want to wait, they just want to wait till we're in full production so that they can start using it then.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's actually, a question that we've had on the comments on the Start Engine page, where they're wanting to know what stage Proctor 360 is at right now, where they're wondering whether or not you can get off the ground. And when you think about it, you've already got companies that are saying, well, as soon as you can deliver enough of the headsets to meet my demand, I'm interested. So that's where it's at. It's how many headsets can you manufacture in your initial run to get the most growth, at the earliest point right now. It's not a question of whether or not these companies want this technology.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So our minimum goal, I think, was about 10,000, and we set that minimum because we knew we'd be able to go into production with that. Anything beyond that allows us to service these customers that are coming forward. So the big problem we're facing is customers ask us, hey, will you be able to service 2,000 exams per month? And currently we don't have the headsets or the funding to be able to do that. So it's not a bad problem to have, but
right.
But we still need the funding so that we can go and scale or start off on such a large scale. And the amount of funding we raised right now kind of determines the rate of growth we'll be going at.
Yeah, at least initially, for sure. And and every company you get to sign on will be, I would say, just from a marketing perspective, exponentially valuable in terms of validating the the usefulness of the product in the marketplace. So you get, I think, when I was having a conversation with Ganga last week, he mentioned that there are, companies right now that are in line waiting if you guys can deliver, enough of the headsets to actually meet the demand, that you could be talking about 3,000 to 6,000 exams a month, which would equate to roughly $75,000 to $150,000 a month of initial revenue, and that's a drop in the bucket for how big the market is.
Yeah.
But you get, that kind of validation, and now you can continue with additional manufacturing orders. You can get, you can sign on larger companies with more, with larger test volumes. So it can, it's going to get real explosive really quick, but it does all kind of come down to how quickly can you get out of the gate, right?
Yeah, and I will say that some of these companies want us to deliver to their international clients as well, because they have schools in Canada, they have schools in Europe, they have schools in India, and they want to adopt this technology to be able to use there as well. So, this potential isn't limited to just the U.S. or just North America. It's worldwide.
That's a great point. It looks like we've got another comment from C. Springer. He says, so do you work with clients who utilize this product as an add-on or a supplement to test center testing, or is it just for remote proctoring only? That's a good question. I mean, there's no reason why this couldn't be used in a live test center for the same kind of security, right?
Yeah, I mean, our focus has primarily been on remote proctoring, but if a testing center came up and wanted to use it, we'd be fully open to that. So we're not limiting ourselves in any way. We're open to any options that, obviously generate revenue. But right now we're focused on remote proctoring, but obviously any avenue is open for us.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I think in your...
I think that's also a good question with respect to digital authentication, Kranti. The reason being, if somebody wanted to verify their exam has been done fairly, we can provide the digital authentication of the exam with our Proctor 360. So even the test centers can use. And for example, somebody wanted to take, some project management exam. And along with that exam, if they wanted to have the proof of their exam delivered fairly, so we have the securely, recorded session of the exam delivery so that, we can give that information to somebody who wanted to verify the exam validity after that. And in addition to that, we're also extending this Proctor 360 for interview process, because interview and hiring is also a big process in this country and across the globe now. It starts with the examination or some kind of test to validate the credits or credentials of the individual who are trying to get into any job. Once the testing is done, then they will have kind of remote interviews, one or two, and then finally somebody is going to walk into the job place. We wanted to make sure that the guy who has taken the exam is the right guy who is also attending the interview, and also is
right.
the guy who is attending for real job. So there are a lot of things going on there. So we wanted to capture that market also using Proctor 360.
Yeah, that's another excellent area to go into with it, because I mean, you think about the HR departments in these large corporations. They don't have the ability to follow up on that kind of detail during the application process. There's no, who's to say that a guy didn't pay someone to go take his certification exam for him, and it's not the same guy that applied for the job. You're right.
Yeah, that's it. There are a lot of things going on, and because the worldwide, this is a surveillance. That means like you are protecting, the guy who is fair and balanced to be the same guy who is going for the job or the exam. So with this digital badging, we're able to provide that kind of authenticity in any test or any interview.
I will also mention that companies spend thousands of dollars for just to interview a single candidate and bring them on board. Not just flying over, but to actually the man hours that they spend interviewing and verifying all the credentials of this person and making sure that it's that they're the people that they want to hire. They spend thousands of dollars doing that. So just a simple thing like this, using it during the interview process could help save on costs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was talking. This was about a year ago. It was when I was at an investor conference. I was talking to somebody who was an executive in charge of HR for a large tech company, who said that they automatically add 20% to whatever a new employee's starting salary is to that first year cost of hiring a new person because of everything you just described, plus the time it takes to onboard that person. And the last thing they want is to put all of that time and effort into onboarding somebody who they then later find out is not up to the task, isn't qualified, or like you said, is misrepresenting their abilities. When you're talking about jobs that pay $150,000 and $200,000 a year, saying 20%, I mean that's to just get that wrong could be throwing away $30,000 or $40,000.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how much money they spend, and it's amazing that in some cases they don't end up with the right person on board.
Yeah. I mean, and that's always possible. Things don't work out for a lot of reasons, but you want to give yourself the best shot when you choose a candidate, from the beginning, that you at least know who it is you're betting on.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Absolutely. I hope that addressed C. Springer's questions. Those were excellent questions, by the way.
Yeah.
I was just mentioning before we got started with the webcast to Kranti and Ganga that, as we were talking before about the Operation Varsity Blues FBI operation. There was actually an article published today in the Atlantic about it. This is an issue that's gaining a lot of attention in not just in the online testing market, which frankly is a pretty insulated kind of it's not the kind of thing you hear about on Squawk Box every morning or on CNBC, but it's a huge industry. As we know, computer-based testing is worth $42 billion right now. But the issues surrounding the validity of testing is becoming a bigger and bigger problem, and it's starting to be seen even within the general public's view now, with these scandals, with the when the Atlantic starts covering it, and they basically went to town on everybody, on the colleges, on the people running the scam, on the parents who think that they can just buy their kids' test results. It was a pretty scathing article that kind of spread the blame around quite a bit. But one thing's for sure, it's not the fault of the students who try to take their tests honestly and fairly and end up getting short shrift because of the cheating that's just possible within testing right now.
Yeah, and like you were saying, every spot that was taken by one of these students that cheated is a spot that a deserving student didn't get.
Yeah, and that goes to not just to fairness, but to lost opportunity, and access to education. I keep beating this drum, but access to education is a big issue in economically depressed parts of this country, as well as in many parts of the rest of the world. And while the technology surrounding e-learning has definitely got there in terms of being able to deliver education to people that don't have the money to go to college or don't have the ease of opportunity, online learning has become a real champion for those people that couldn't get, that otherwise wouldn't have access to education. But then when it comes time to take a test to validate, your learning, to verify your learning, which is what actually gets you the career advancement, which, that gets you ahead in life, the technology for that is still so far behind. It's like we were saying, at the beginning, it's a decade-old technology to be using the webcam that's on a laptop, and too many people are cheating the system. So, I mean, this product really could not have come at a better time.
Yeah, and even our COO Don Kastner, he's been in the industry for I think the past 20 years, and he told me that they had been trying to work on something like 10 years ago, something where you could see the full room, but 360-degree camera technology hadn't developed enough at that point. So we really came at an opportune time where he said the timing was perfect where, we can incorporate this technology into the testing industry. It'll be easily accepted because everyone knows that we're moving to online, and testing is going in that direction because it's much more convenient, it's far easier, and the level of security will be far greatly improved. So that's why, 10 billion or 42 billion. I think it was 10 billion for the online testing market, and then 42 billion for the computer testing market. Those may seem like large numbers, but it's because they expect a exponential growth in online, on not only online learning, but also the testing aspect of it.
Right, absolutely, and by the way, it's worth mentioning. Just I'm a marketing guy, can't help myself. It's worth mentioning that projection of remote testing reaching $10 billion is before there was a product like Proctor 360 that could actually make online testing more fair and more credible, and the organization that actually produced those numbers, Learning Light, is currently calling Proctor 360 a potential game changer. They think it could change everything.
Yeah, we were pretty excited to hear that as well.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah, it definitely helps.
Do you guys want to talk a little bit, while we've still got some people watching here, and if anybody, maybe comes up with some other questions, please feel free to post them in the live chat. But do you guys want to talk a little bit about just how you initially came up with the idea? Of course, Ganga, you're the CEO, and you've operated live testing centers for a long time now. But what brought you guys to the idea of using 360-degree webcam technology?
Sure, Scott. We do this testing in and out, day in and day out. As we speak, my proctors are testing, in multiple locations. We deliver computer-based and hybrid paper-based, and also mixed of, computer as well as paper-based exams. And we deliver day in and day out. And we have a lot of partnerships with big guys such as Prometric, Pearson VUE, and all. So one of the factor with the online e-learning is everybody wanted to have that exam to be delivered conveniently. The convenience is one factor, but there are also a couple of other factors such as the content production and the cheating. So we focused on these three things. How do you provide the convenience? How do you protect the content of the exam delivering company? And make sure that there is no cheating and the fairness is being done. So we compared all the products in the market. There's a webcam based, big companies are there. They are making millions of dollars every day and every month, to be honest with you. They deliver thousands of exams in a day. But only with a single webcam camera where somebody can, cheat using cell phone or other laptop and things like that. There is no surveillance or the video footage of how they are taking the exam. So that's where I came up with an idea with the 360-degree camera and also front view camera, so that we are able to capture entire environment. Imagine, as a human being, we have been only gifted with 5 senses: what you can see, what you can listen, what you can touch, what you can smell, and what you can taste. Unfortunately, the tasting and smelling is not useful for any cheating. The only way you can cheat is what you can see, what you can listen, and what you can touch. So if my Proctor 360 is able to control all these 3 senses, in fact 5 senses, where is the possibility of cheating? So that's why this product is going to be the game changer. There is no doubt.
Yeah, if you can see everything in the room, you can hear what's going on. There's nothing else left. You're actually watching what they're doing on the screen. In addition to all of that, there's just really no other way left at that point, is there?
That's right. And it's recorded for verification.
Right. So even if there was a question later on, the person is 3 or 4 months into a job, or they're into the next semester of their school, and the question comes up, they can always go back and review the entire test session.
Right, like the SAT exams. So if there is a
Yeah.
digital footage, nobody can, say that, there is a fraud in the exam delivery. So that's why we are trying to provide a digital badging for the exam, change the entire industry with our technology.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I think it's going to happen. As we said earlier, it's really just at this point we're talking about a question of how quickly Proctor 360 achieves growth, and that's what the offering on Start Engine is really all about. Is taking investors at this time, and you guys have been really actually very conservative in terms of the maximum amount of investment you're willing to accept at this point. And I like that because you're not trying to just chase investor dollars forever and ever. You want to actually use this money to get a manufacturing order done so that you can get to market as quickly as possible and start seeing revenue right away. I mean,
Yeah, we see the potential of this, and I do think that some of our numbers on Start Engine, at least when it comes to revenue, are a bit conservative. But we did like to keep it that way because we didn't want to come off as overshooting, and that's something we felt we could confidently do. But now, I'm sure even with just like the few demos we have, we've been noticing that there's been like a great amount of interest. So like we know that we could beat that number easily. And then I think we had another website pick us up, or do an article on us, and they kind of mentioned those same numbers, 42 billion, and they stated that we had a huge opportunity to take a huge chunk of that market. So that
right,
was,
at learningplatforms.net, right?
yeah. So that was good to hear as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Don Kastner, the COO, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, but he was on a webinar we did last week where he had just returned from an Innovations in Testing national conference, and he was saying that everybody he spoke to wanted to know more about Proctor 360 and when the platform is going to be available, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're less than a year. It's been about like 9-10 months since we've started the company, right? And it's great that we're garnering such interest. I think part of it is due to Don and his communications outward. So it's been good so far, and I think people are waiting for us to come forward and make a statement in the market, and for that way it allows them to adopt the technology.
Right, and that's that's key. And again, with companies waiting in line, just saying as soon as you've got the product ready to handle our volume, we're interested. That's an incredible validation right there. And from an investor standpoint, we haven't talked that much about the investors so far, but from an investor standpoint, that's really key. It takes two things to even have the chance to have success when you invest at a startup level in a company. Number one, it takes vision and courage, which I would call one thing. You need to be able to recognize the potential of an idea within a marketplace, and then you need to have the courage to be the guy who makes the early bet. We'll leave it to people who are watching this to go to the Start Engine page to see our offering details at startengine.com/Proctor360. But I think if you see, the risk is relatively low when you consider what the share price is when you invest at a startup stage. So you've got to have the vision to recognize a game-changing product, and you've got to have the courage to make that bet at a startup stage. But then the number two thing is you want to be looking for a startup company who's got a plan to achieve some kind of traction in the very near term. And almost always this is where startups go wrong. And I, as a consultant and advisor for startups, this is something that I try to spend a lot of time talking with any company that I work with about is that you've got to have a plan that develops traction in the beginning. Traction doesn't have to mean, billion-dollar profits. If people invest into startup stage, they have to know that it's a long play. They're investing to see, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times growth. But you want to be able to show that you're actually gaining traction early on. So with Proctor 360, that's what's amazing about this offering is it's not a what if scenario. It's not a maybe this could make it scenario. Companies are waiting to use this platform. So investing now is getting that early low share price investor deal, but you're going to start seeing revenue and real traction in a very short time frame compared to other startups.
Yeah,
that was a mouthful. I can get a little long-winded.
I think we're running at 40 minutes now. I think with that we might be able to cut it. I think we discussed everything we wanted to. Was there anything anyone wanted to mention?
No, I think unless anybody's got another question, I see we still have a couple of viewers there. If anybody's got a question, post it real fast. We'll be continuing to do these live chats over the next few weeks. I will point out that the offering is only going to be available for a limited time, and that time is running out. So if you're interested in making an investment, you want to hurry up and make your decision, because once we move out of this offering, it's into growth mode. It's into manufacturing the product and getting it into the marketplace. And the next time you hear about Proctor 360, it's going to be a whole different deal. So
that's right, Scott.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thanks, guys. I've enjoyed this. Appreciated the questions we saw today.
Thank you, Scott.
All right.
Thanks, Scott.